Welcome to the Rob Liefeld Show featuring Robservations. I bring over 40 years experience in the world of comic books and entertainment. Across 5 decades, I offer insights and opinions on the business and the art of comic books and pop culture. If it's happening in games, in streaming, in movies, in comic books, we are covering it and discussing it right here. Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Rob Liefeld Show featuring Robservations, wherever you are listening to us, whether it is on Apple or Spotify or iHeartRadio, Podbean, or our YouTube channel. We just appreciate so much that you tune in, that you listen, that you interact with us, and that you have spread the good word. You have spread the word of mouth on our little endeavor here, our little show. We exist to celebrate and discuss the world of comic books and their relationship to pop culture. That's what we've been doing for 5.5 years, 470 episodes. And just as I woke up this morning, I was reminded once again, you guys have made us number one. There's 14 weeks left in 2025. If you can't believe it, check it out. 14 weeks left in 2025. You have put us on top, making us the number one comic book pop culture discussion show on all of the podcast platforms. And I just cannot thank you enough. This show built its credibility by reading you letters, reading you faxes, memos, all the stuff in the drawers over a long 40-year career. 5 decades I've been doing this. And I have shared with you receipts. I read interviews and memos in the voices of the writers, the artists, the publishers, the editors who wrote them. I have had all manner of Marvel and DC talents all across social media express how much they've enjoyed the show, reliving those moments. And for 5.5 years, we have been uncontested because what we bring to you are facts. Facts matter. The way that the stuff rolled out, the behind the scenes, beyond the bloviated headlines, even back in my day in the 90s with the magazines as they tried to seize power. I mean, I look back at that and I just laugh at so much attempted misdirection. I'm sure they didn't imagine a time where A, they would all be out of business, B, they would all be out of work, and C, the facts would be able to come to light via podcast with cameras, with microphones like we have here. So across 5.5 years, we have built our credibility on the show, just bringing you stuff the way it happened. So many of the stuff that's happened over the course of since about 1986 on is because I've been there. I've been a part. I went to the offices at Marvel in DC. I went out to dinner with these people. I stayed at their homes. Many hundreds of conventions, sleepovers, whether it's in the hotel room or at maybe some of your favorites' house, or they hung out with me. All of the different journeys we took, creating publishing labels, tackling different stories, tackling different characters. I have tried to share them here with you, the newsmakers. You know what? I look back and I realize that this year we've given you some really fun interviews with retailers, with some giants like Robert Kirkman, like Dave Finch, some up-and-comers like Eric Gist. And we're not going to stop there. We're going to continue bringing you great interviews and sharing insights on how comic books are made, why they are made, the thought process behind the art and the construction of the stories, even down to the marketing. The stories that we've shared with you, I'm so thrilled. They've just been so honest with what sells, with why maybe some stuff that they thought would sell didn't. Their adventures in conventioning, where it becomes even more ruthless for a very tight window. We've shared it all here, and I just appreciate that you have tuned in each and every week and that you have been digging it as much as you've been digging it. I am still making comics. This is, I guess, my side hustle. The podcast is not my job. It has become something that I've really become conditioned to share and to partake in, and probably the thing that kept the show going the most after the very first year is when things opened up post-pandemic, when we started the show. And so many of you introduced yourselves to me at the different comic stores that I was touring, because I really leaned into doing stores as opposed to conventions. But even at the conventions that I go to, this summer, the only convention I've gone to, San Diego Comic-Con, so many of you mentioned the show, the enjoyment that it's brought you, but mostly you have enjoyed learning the history of comics. I love the history of comics. I just love comic books. I love the people behind it. I'll say it again, as I have said so many times, the people who make our comic books, the incredible comic book creators, especially the superstar, like next level guys, they have brought so much joy, so much excitement, and they represent a level of creativity that I believe is unmatched across novels, movies, video games. We are the source material for so much of what you see, that console game, that online game, these big budget movies, the streaming shows, the action figures. I've got a couple, some of these action figures I'm going to share with you today. The cartoons, we are, as I've said, the dreamers. Okay, we create these incredible dreams. We manifest them, and then other people come by, and they grab at them, and they seek to adapt them, and yes, exploit them. And once again, I'm going to double down. We as comic book creators deserve the very best treatment, and when we're not given the very best treatment, we need to stand up and say so. I've said so. It's made me unpopular in certain circles, but I don't care. You know, I never moved to Los Angeles. I stayed in Orange County, Southern California, where I was fortunate really to be born and raised and grown up in, and I just love this area. But I've never given over to the city life, and Orange County feels much further away than it actually is. It's just a different existence. And my focus will always be on creating the paper versions, the virgins of these stories and these characters as they come to life on my Bristol board and on my sketch pads before they go to publication, and they are meant to entertain you, not to be a tryout for a movie or a show or a game. If it's fun and it's popping and you're enjoying it, that is, for me, the entire battle. That is the entire battle. When I produce work, even as I hold up this reprint with a chisel signature, I'm holding up Youngblood #2, the deluxe edition. You know, we keep returning to that. We keep putting it back into press. That's one of the things on a recent episode. This is a store variant in Arizona for Fantastic Worlds. Had a great shop there. Stopped there this last spring. This was the Youngblood variant I made just for the show, the store, and for that appearance. And that's all that mattered to me. Making that comic and putting the smiles on the faces of the people who buy that comic. Everything else, as they say, is gravy. And so much of everything else in the entertainment world continues to be more difficult as growing pains. And hearkening back to a point that I made just on the very last episode, no one ever held up a comic book and said, man, this comic book was too expensive. Wow, we lost our shirts making that comic books. Comic books, paper, imagination, pencils, computer tools to color, send off to press. Yes, the price of paper went up, but not anywhere near the price of movie productions, television productions, games, even toys. No one ever said, oh, that price of that comic book is prohibitive. You know, making your own comics, as we discussed, has so many benefits. And in regards to something like a Youngblood, which I released in 1992, 33 years ago this year, and we did a great job celebrating that at Golden Apple. The point of that specific comic is, when it was released, it did 1.1 million copies after we went back to press, because 1 million copies wasn't enough for the market when it hit in April of 1992. So we went back, we added to that, we added a few 600,000 plus more copies to get to 1.1 million, 1.1 like 60,000, so not quite 1.2. And what turns out, over the years, we continue to make it available in singles. We've done, reprints, much like how Marvel does puts out the reprints of their comics in multiple editions. We did these deluxes, and the sales just continue to go up. And so for the rest of my life, those that film, those stories that I told you in 1992, that's in my purview. That's in my control to flip that on. Whether it's Prophet, Brigade, Youngblood, if you have a catalog, you know what I'm talking about. But that is the bonus. And I'm going to really delve deep into this today as we discuss You, the Decider, because in between shows, it's always exciting to look over all the different topics. And the topic of being able to take your property, your comic book work, your creative blood, sweat, and tears, and flip the press on again and again and again, was first made really evident to me when Walking Dead, probably around 2012, 13, 14. I know I did a couple of the shows and I did a couple of the covers to the reprint editions of The Walking Dead. Wizard, before they went out of business, their last couple of years of shows, they packed it with different creators, mainly independent creators. And with Robert Kirkman, they were doing a different Walking Dead assortment at every show. I had one for a show in Wisconsin, and I may have had one for a show in Vegas that wasn't Wizard related, but I was two of those potential Walking Dead reprint opportunities. They put new covers on them wherever you went. Sometimes Wizard World had more than one. I had a black and white version. I had a color version of my Walking Dead for the Wizard World. I wherever it was in Wisconsin that we were doing the show. I had not been to that territory before. I brought my boy Chase. He had a blast. It was like some blizzard conditions the first day, giant snow everywhere. Chase would rather be outside, running around, skipping through the snow, making snowballs. It was a really great change of pace for him. I think it was March or February. But that Walking Dead was the signature book of the show. And I remember I called up Robert Kirkman. I'm like, man, if you're adding 25 of these over the next 2 years, and I think it was at least that much, and then you add X amount, is it 5,000? Is it 10,000 per show? Then suddenly Walking Dead, which had meager beginnings, I only Robert could tell you, but if it was $10,000 to $12,000, I'd be shocked. I think it was a time in the comic business where stuff like that was really ordered to the bare minimum. It's one of the reasons why a legitimate first edition Walking Dead is so expensive, because they were so hard to obtain when even as the word of the mouth of the comic book built years before it became a TV show. The comic book was something that, hey, do you have that? Do you have that? And literally Walking Dead #1 was so scarce that people had to start ordering more of 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. And so as he adds printings, so then the original Walking Dead #1 in all its incarnations, and I'm not going to count trade collections or hardcovers, but if we did, then that flips the script entirely for not only Walking Dead, but for everything. But the idea that you can reach into your library and at any time decide, I'm going to go back to press. I'm going to put a foil cover on this. I'm going to put a glow in the dark. This is really re-emphasizing a point that I shared with you earlier. But when you own your stories and you have them and you are able to go back to press at any time, it can be an absolute kick in the pants. Oh, glow in the dark technology, glow in the dark. Okay, great. We'll do that. We did that. Oh, hollow foil. Okay, great. Oh, spot foil. Great. Acetate covers. Talk to my printer. He could do it. Boom. We had them. This is the fun. And let me tell you something, people. I'd rather spend more time on the fun of this than the business. The business part is only important because it allows you to keep having fun. That's how I've always looked at it. Does it pay me enough so that I can keep having fun? Does it pay me enough? I'm not into cars and stuff. Yes, I've invested in artwork, so I'm going to be honest there. But the end of the day is, does it pay you enough to get up the next day and go at it again? And that is really what fuels me. Can I continue to create the fun? And if throwing some acetate covers on to a fan base that says, yes, I will take those, I'll want those, then that helps me put out a fun product that they associate with one of their favorite characters. It builds goodwill. It creates a new opportunity, puts the character and the property in a new light, and it's wins all around. You added a new version. It may have made you a little more money. It gave you a new marketing aspect to the character, given that you did a new edition now with the glow in the dark cover and with some new art. That is the benefits of owning your own. Today's episode is about you. You decide. So everything I discuss is going to be about you deciding. Well, I've got Youngblood. It's coming out. It's coming out in 2025, and I am excited about the news that pours in each and every day. Some of the stuff that we haven't announced yet is going to be announced formally very soon. We got a great big giant celebration coming your way. But as far as I put on my glasses here to read these lists, as far as the retailers, I keep telling you all the retailers that jumped on board, and I want to read them to you right now. I want to give them the spotlight. This is just a great list. It's in no particular order. I asked Image Comics for this list so that I could share this on the show. Youngblood #1 coming out in November, brand new 2025. Switched up some pages, made some small edits. Has covers by Ryan Stegman, by Ryan Otley, by Daniel Warren Johnson, by Kyle Nagu, by Mark Spears, by Eric Gist. If I left anybody out, it's not purpose. Obviously, I have some covers on there. Scotty Young, what am I talking about? Scotty Young, okay? We have some incredible additions coming your way. These stores then stepped up and hired artists that they would like to do their own editions, and that is Big Time Collectibles, Geek Street Productions. These are the stores and the accounts that are doing exclusive editions of Youngblood. #1, Big Time Collectibles, Geek Street Productions, Top Shelf, PCB Hobby, Black Saber Comics, Heroes and Fantasies, Shell Beast, ANZ, capital A, lowercase n, capital Z Comics, ANZ Comics, Midtown Comics, Countdown Comics LLC, East Coast Comics, 10 Forward Comics, Comic Inspiration, Fury Comics, Nirvana Comics, Windy City Comics, Third Eye Comics, and there's a couple more yet to be announced. But I'm just going to go through that again. Big Time Collectibles, Geek Street Productions, Top Shelf, PCB Hobby, Black Saber Comics, Heroes and Fantasies, Shell Beast, ANZ Comics, Midtown Comics, Countdown Comics LLC, East Coast Comics, 10 Forward Comics, Comics Inspiration, Fury Comics, Nirvana Comics, Windy City Comics, and Third Eye Comics. You guys, I am completely honored, blessed in every possible way that these stores decided to throw in and do their own specific editions. And each one of those stores has one or two versions. And right now we're at 27 retail. There is a Youngblood Celebration Month that's coming out, and I want to get you hyped because really we are just about a week away from October. And I am just so psyched that this book is finally going to make it. It's going to arrive. There will be a New York Comic Con edition that I'll have very limited copies in the hundreds, not the thousands, in the very low hundreds. And then there is a VIP edition for my New York Comic Con VIP edition that is the lowest. It will no doubt be the lowest. I don't even anticipate there being 100 of those. 100 VIPs for any particular show that I go to would be like one of the largest in the last 6 years. The most we ever did in VIPs was in Seattle, and it was over 200. So I am just playing it safe. We won't be able to print more. What we printed is what we're bringing, and right now we've got them at just under 100 copies, and we'll be sharing that with the VIPs at New York Comic Con. So this is all Youngblood related. And you're like, hey, I didn't realize I signed on for a commercial. Well, this is not my day job. My day job is making comic books. My big comic book that's coming out formally this fall is Youngblood. I'm really excited about it. You're going to hear a lot about it. It has been a flagship title whenever it appears for the last 33 years. It launched Image Comics. It was the #1 Image Comics. Another Image comic did not come out for 3 months after the fact. So we are excited to bring this to you. I'm excited for you to go on this journey. Let me just wrap this up by saying the first 5 issues are one big giant saga told in the way that I wanted to do it. And many times people are like, well, did you leave and do Image Comics just to be able to just license toys and make toys? Freedom of artistic expression was the #1 reason, because I could control that 100%. I couldn't control whether someone was going to want to make a toy or want to make a game, but I could control if I wanted to make a big fight scene, if I wanted to make a big action shot into a 2-page spread. Eventually, with Youngblood Strike File, I pushed the envelope, and the 3rd edition is all double-page spreads, as I'd seen some people do at Marvel once or twice, but certainly they were not easily negotiated, and the people that did that once or twice were some of the biggest names in the book in comics at the peak of their careers, and even they had to fight to get that. When you own your own comic and you want to stretch the storytelling out in a way to emphasize the action instead of the talking heads, that's what I'm doing. Youngblood is a giant, big action epic with big ideas, all new concepts. You will see all new concepts. Issues 2 and 3 is when we really peel the layers back and you see what's really going on. And before you know it, when issue 6 comes out, we're switching to legacy numbering, and that'll be number 100. And we will have 100 complete issues of Youngblood. But the first 5 issues is one giant storyline told at a pace that I'm comfortable with, that emphasizes action and spectacle and drama. And I hope you come along for the ride for me. So I wanted to get that out there, read those names, get those retailers recognized for how much they're bringing. Now, recently, in keeping with retail, the last maybe Saturday prior to me recording, so just within a week of this, there was Batman Day. Batman Day. Celebrated at all the different comic stores. DC Comics made sure there was some special edition comics. I didn't make it out. I didn't participate. I didn't go to a store. I just watched some of the stuff online, watched people showing what they got. But during Batman Day on Facebook, in an original art group that I'm a part of, a really great original art group, people all wanted to start sharing their Batman art. I was also too lazy to go into my safe and get my few Batman pages that I have. That I have some Jim Aparo Batman art. And I have a page of Batman in Black Canary from a Brave and the Bold issue that I really liked. That's inked by Terry Austin back in the early '80s, penciled by Dick Giordano, inked by Terry Austin. I just didn't go grab them and share them, but I loved looking at everybody else's art. And everybody had a lot of great pages, but a couple people shared original pages from Marshall Rogers. And if you're a longtime listener of the show, you know that Marshall Rogers, I believe, passed in 2007. He was 57 years old. He was younger than me. And his Batman, looking at these pages, looking at the physical representation of these original art, and I have some buddies in the business who are very aggressive in their collecting. I would say they're on the big baller side of art. And the one thing that is asked all the time is, do you guys ever see Marshall Rogers pages from his original 1977-1978 run on Detective Comics? And we don't. They're not stuff that you come across flipping through portfolios. If someone has them, they generally show up at auction, and that is few and far between of late, and or maybe on the back of somebody's wall. They are, if they're passed around private collections, they are passing me and my friends by. I have a friend who really wants a great page from that run, and just by the length of the run, it makes sense that there would be a few hundred pages out there to choose from, but they have not made it to light. So looking at these original pages, as I did online, I was just blown away. One was inked by Dick Giordano because Terry Austin didn't ink each of the issues, and the other one was a Terry Austin page. And it just all rushed back to me how influential Marshall is. And had Marshall lived to make it to this giant convention-driven business of comic books that we exist in now, where there's 2 to 3 every weekend all over just the United States alone, Marshall Rogers would be a much better known quantity. He would have gotten out there. Somebody would have gotten to him, wanted to present him to the public, get him to offer up his signatures on his incredible Detective Comics work, the Batman stuff that he did, the portfolios. His stuff was so popular, they put out portfolios with just 6 plates of brand new Marshall Rogers depicting Batman. I've said it before, you can see Marshall Rogers' influence very heavily in Todd McFarlane, in Michael Golden, and everybody who did Batman past 1977, 1978, his run that turned the entire comic book community on its head. I wasn't buying Batman, but suddenly I was. Because of him, he was the first artist that kind of forced my hand into buying a Batman book. So I just want to give a special nod, as I will always give a nod, to the fact that sometimes looking at a page of art, even one that is not physically in your presence, but seeing it shared by somebody else in a Facebook group, really just got me jazzed, got me absolutely 1,000% like, wow, and made me go, man, maybe I need one of these too. But it goes to just show you that some of the influences, the reason I like sharing influences and sourcing is it's fun. Again, I get back to fun. It's fun seeing where other influences maybe found their roots in, were were the source of a stylistic kind of bend or a stylistic tweak that somebody else applied. Certainly Marshall, I think, looked at some of the capes that Neil Adams was doing and then made it even more graphic in his own depictions. When Todd did his Batman Year 2 issues and some of the covers he did, he was very heavily influenced by Marshall Rogers. This is something that he would tell you in a heartbeat. He talked very openly about it back in the late 80s, early 90s when we would discuss it. But anytime I see this stuff, I like to just share it. It's worth grabbing. I have shared the story where I went to get my copy, I went to the comic store. I brought my buddy Murat. You guys know Murat. He made it to the Marshall Rogers collection first. I came home and on Amazon, the only one that was available, I believe, is this French edition. And I ended up, no, it's German. I ended up getting the German edition, excuse me. But just seeing these pages and I mean, I just randomly opened to this. This I'm showing you a splash page right now with the capes over the city. This is very much, and this is years before Todd McFarlane would get into the business, but it is very much a point of emphasis that these are the kind of capes that Todd was influenced by. Because this was super impactful work. This did not happen in a vacuum. This was not a tree that fell in this was not a tree that fell in the forest and no one heard it. Batman stuff was really popular and celebrated even as it is now almost 48 years ago, okay? Not lost on me how old we are, but sharing influences. In the same way somebody could show you that Todd McFarlane has influenced every Spawn that followed, and Todd's influence on Spider-Man, which also was influenced by guys like Art Adams and Michael Golden, went on to influence today's artists like a Ryan Stegman, okay? So sourcing is great. I've talked about my own sourcing, the Jack Kirby, the Art Adams, all the different influences that flow through my own work. We are going to get back to that 90s series, and discuss more of the ways that the 9 comics that shaped the 90s, and they, some of them were very, very late in the 80s or very early in the 90s and established a benchmark for the rest of the decade. That's still coming. That will be a real double down on influence. All of this leads me, and they wouldn't do Batman Day unless you were showing up and supporting Batman Day and spending more in support of Batman Day. We're going to make this point, and then we're going to circle back to it immediately as this comes to light, because this weekend it was shared that the new Green Arrow series that was released, has it been a year? That series was being canceled. It was shared across social medias, and it opened up a dialogue. Well, I was curious, and because I'm able to, I've got people who have connections. I immediately looked around. I asked, and wanted to start kind of picking the brains of the people who were making the decisions and maybe seeing if I could get to the numbers. The first time that I came across it, in all honesty, this news about Green Arrow being canceled, was on Scott Snyder's account on maybe Sunday, early Monday, late Sunday, and he shared very openly how stuff like this is beyond his pay grade, and also it's he wasn't sharing it in any way other than with great regret that this news was coming about. And boy, man, some of this stuff gets buried fast. It says, one tweet said, "Why is DC ending their best ongoing series?" And immediately the discussion turned to low sales. This, Flash, and a lot of other favorites are suffering from poor sales. Over the last several years, you have heard me say that there are very known characters in both the Marvel and DC catalogs that are doing sales that would shock you, sales that would absolutely shock you in how low they are. Now, where I think it's even more kind of interesting. So Green Arrow, part of their all-in, maybe they're canceling it. I'm not sure which number it's being canceled, but Scott Snyder weighed in and said, "Decisions like these are above my pay grade. But the honest reason is that not enough of us were buying it. The sales numbers on Green Arrow were just unsustainable. It's disappointing to everyone, but keeping it going means not being able to take other chances. That is the truth in comic books. I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to contrast it when you own your own, okay? When you own your own comic and your options are different. But for this, you are looking at a brand name character. So Green Arrow, let's all agree that it was one of the longest running, most successful shows that ran on television, broadcast network, CW. And I just want to get my factoid straight. It ran for 8 seasons. It launched in 2012. It literally, among the quick facts that you immediately hit, it was the launching point, the Arrowverse, as it was called, for the Flash, Supergirl, Legend of Tomorrow, Batwoman, Freedom Fighters, the Ray Vixen. Okay, 8 seasons. 8 seasons. If you go and immediately go to the episode guide, it is going to hit you with the fact, man, woo, that is a lot of episodes. 170 episodes. 170 episodes really put, is it Stephen Amell on the map? And this is a very well-known property. Very well-known, very high profile. So this comic book, this iteration of it is being canceled. Green Arrow on TV, 8 seasons, 170 episodes, lots of spinoffs. I'm just reading what it says here, and looking twice for information in regards to vetting it so that I can absolutely give you something that is reliable. Again, another source, 170 aired episodes of Arrow across 80 seasons. Canceled. I wanted to look into it. Well, before that, an Aquaman account, one that I follow, an Aquaman account said, hey, we are in the same boat. The Aquaman account. Aquaman sales went from strong to knee deep. It's in cancellation story territory with issue 8. Its current numbers, Aquaman's current sales numbers, are below the sales numbers of Green Arrow. If you want to sustain monthly Aquaman, keep those pre-orders strong and jump on, okay? So I just read this to you. So because I know people in the business, I went to 3 different sources, and I was told that the Flash currently, not part of this discussion, but they use the Flash as a barometer, that the Flash, considered a low-selling comic right now, is in the high 16,000s, low 17,000s. I don't know what number it's on. I didn't say absolute Flash. I don't even know if there is an absolute Flash. The Flash. These 3 different sources all then told me that the sales on Green Arrow and Aquaman are between 12 and 15,000. One suggested possibly as low as 10. So you get where they're coming from, and then you go, well, at $2 a book, give or take. Okay, maybe DC's pocketing $20,000. It's a break, depending on what they're paying talent, the printing bill, the cut that the distributor makes. It is likely that these are break-even numbers. And so at that point, you do as an editorial team look and say, like, let's say Jeremy Adams, who is a great writer. I love his Flash Gordon. I loved his Green Lantern. I've been reading Aquaman. He's a talented guy. I believe he has a giant breakout book coming from him any day now. I've been privileged to meet Jeremy because of this podcast. I want to say 4 years ago, he introduced himself to me on the streets of San Diego on the Gaslamp District, and he told me how much he enjoyed the show. I asked him what his name was. He said he worked in the business. I immediately went and grabbed some books by him and started seeking his work out on a regular basis. This was at a point that I was buying virtually no DC Comics, so I wasn't familiar with anybody doing DC Comics work at the time. As I've said since then, Green Lantern, Aquaman, and Flash Gordon have been the books of Jeremy's that I picked up. He's a really talented guy. So at some point, then the publisher looks and says, well, should Jeremy be writing something better for us? Because we're not going to hang this one on Jeremy, that Aquaman, traditionally a tough character to garner a bigger audience in the last decade or maybe the last 15 years. Certainly the DC 52 Aquaman by Jeff Johns really shot out the gate at a big number. But we're now, we're looking at nearly 16 years ago. And the irony again, like Arrow, this is one breakout Aquaman movie that did $1 billion with Jason Momoa in 2019. I mean, just a monster box office smash. Or was it 2018? Forgive me. I just remember it was around Christmas time and was a giant deal. Obviously, got the sequel going, $1 billion Aquaman franchise, but the comic books are difficult in regards to making a connection. So do you look back and go, this creative team is delivering for me? They're doing some great stuff. They're doing the best they can, but the audience is gone. Now, why is the audience gone? Well, we all know that the narrative over at DC Comics has really shifted towards the absolute books, but never, I think in the last 10 years, have I seen a year that they were more in celebration of Batman. So we are looking at these low sales on Flash, cancellation level sales on Green Arrow, hot water, possible cancellation level sales on Aquaman. And what does work? What does work for DC? Time and again, 3 times this last year, 3 times, Batman has hit number one with different creatives. You've got Absolute Batman, you've got Hush, and now you've got the brand new blind bag Batman that was just launched. All 3 different creative teams. The common denominator is that it is Batman, it is Gotham City, it is Commissioner Gordon, it is Catwoman, it is the looming threat interest of Joker, Riddler, the entire amazing Rogues Gallery. I do believe Batman has the best Rogues Gallery in DC Comics. I believe when it goes to Marvel Comics, he would rank number 3. All you Batman people are now throwing stuff at the screen or shouting at me. I'm giving him a top 3 Rogues Gallery of all time. I believe Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four have superior villains, and you're going to be like, one Joker trumps whatever. Doctor Doom is a pretty big deal for me. I think Spider-Man has the deepest bench of probably B plus killer villains, and then enough A to qualify. And I also am judging on just the sheer visual representation of so many of those characters as well, whether it's Mysterio or Kraven or Vulture, Doc Ock, Green Goblin, add Venom. I mean, pretty great upgrade, right? If between Venom and Bane, I'm going to go Venom, like in terms of last significant bad guy to be released. But Batman, top 3 and easily DC's top Rogues Gallery. So over in its own playground, it's number 1. It's the best. You've had Batman hit number 1 with 3 different creatives across 3 different titles. This is a very successful franchise for them. This is now here's what I'm going to flip the script on you. Rob, how? Well, Batman is the biggest character in all of comic books. Marvel, anything Marvel. I believe Batman is more popular than Spider-Man, and I believe we have the last 40 years worth of evidence. I'm not going to read you the Stephen King detective. Was it 600? I've read it here before on the air in the past episodes. It's in the library. He was very concerned that Batman was shedding titles. If this is the first time that you're listening to the show, because we're getting a lot of first-time people, there was a period in the 80s where Batman was going from 8 titles to 6 titles to 4 titles to 3 titles. His popularity had waned, if you can believe it. Team books were the rage. Multiple Teen Titan books, multiple Legion books. They used Batman to start a new super team called the Outsiders and then dropped Batman from it, and it was just the Outsiders. Brave and the Bold was gone. Batman Family was gone. All manner of World's Finest, which was Batman and Superman, was gone. He was losing his place in the pantheon at the time, and it caused somebody like a Stephen King to write a remembrance or kind of an editorial content for an anniversary issue where he lamented the fact that he believed that Batman was in danger of being like a Buck Rogers, the Shadow, Flash Gordon, Tarzan, characters that one day in his youth, he's quite a bit older, he would show up and those characters were gone. And he was right. The culture passes certain characters and certain properties by. Hollywood at large is still trying to catch something in regards to Tarzan. The last one had Margot Robbie and Sam Jackson in it, and the director of Harry Potter, and it couldn't sustain. Some of these I know that the Edgar Rice Burroughs catalog, of which Tarzan is a part of, has been shopped to every studio in Hollywood in the last decade, especially the last 5 years, post-pandemic as well. and it doesn't get as many bites as it may have gone in the 1970s and 1980s when it was at its most kind of attractive, and it meant most to the men running the studios who had grown up reading those comic books in maybe the 1930s or 40s, and now they were running studios, you know, in their 40s, and going, I would love to bring Tarzan to screen, and they did. Late 70s, early 80s, Greystoke. Batman was in a little bit of trouble. Frank Miller comes along in 4 issues. He gets the award for in 4 issues, completely changing the narrative. Then he does 4 more. Present day. Dark Knight is a futuristic tale. I have done a dedicated podcast. It's one of my proudest podcasts. Dark Knight Changed Batman Forever is from September 20th, 2022, our second season. It is 1 hour and 35 minutes, 10 ways, I'm holding it up, that Batman changed Dark Knight forever. Okay? So there it is. Grab that, check that out. It's a good listen. I went through and I given the gift, of looking at it through a retrospective lens. I was able to survey and evaluate all the ways that this hadn't happened before. Boom, now. And this is even before Absolute Batman, which I believe leans even more to the thick physical representation of Batman, which was the first time we had seen the thick physical, wrinkly, costume, and Batman not having a gymnast body, but more bulky and thick and squat. That all happened in Dark Knight, and then all the other ways that we dissected it. That changed Batman forever, got people excited about Batman, put Batman back on top, and there was no looking back. But as important as any of the voices that took Batman to number 1 this last year meant to publishing, unfortunately, all of publishing, that would include Image, that would include my books, Marvel, DC. We are kind of the little pimple on the butt of these giant corporations. I have laughed as a studio president. I was fortunate to be out to lunch with them. Just talked about the billions of dollars that a successful year for the studio industry, for a successful year at a film studio, that the billions of dollars, his words, could fuel years of production. When you have a hit film and it starts going, and you have maybe 2 or 3 of them, and as Disney did in 2019 before the pandemic, literally between the 8 movies that they had that went and did $1 billion or 7, they made profits in the billions, not the hundreds of millions, because there's just so much coming at them, so much. And he said, it keeps the studios aloft. Okay, when you make a profit, maybe when a publishing division makes a profit of $60 million, they're looking at their video game departments, they're looking at their film departments, their streaming departments, and saying, these departments make profits of hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. And so publishing, as aggressive as it is, the fact that we're in the paper business and now very much in the collectible business, because this is, again, getting back to you decide where this is going. And trust me, it's going to be really rich coming from the guy that had X-Force #1 in polybags, clear polybags with a different trading card in each assortment. Same cover, but a different one of 5 cards in each of those tell you that the bagged items that we are seeing now, and so many of the now blind bags, they don't want you to see what's in it. They want the mystery to be the component. Those are coming out left and right and center. It started with Battle Beast. When you get there first, it matters, it resonates. It carries a more genuine excitement. But now that we've got DC doing it a couple times, Marvel's going to do it a couple times, other publishers are doing it a couple times, look for that you're going to have to add a new wrinkle to that, because this is like the 90s. From polybag to multiple cover to acetate to glow in the dark to foil to die cut to just all manner of different textures and trickery that can be a lot of fun when you marry the gimmick or the marketing the marketing aspect to a fun story and great art. You're going to hit big. It's the perfect world. But all too often they fall into just relying on the gimmicks to sell you anything in hopes that the gimmick will make the convincing argument for you, and it's not always the convincing argument that's going to be made by a gimmick. You may buy it for FOMO and then evaluate it later, and then maybe not buy the next one because you felt burnt. That's the risk that all of these take. We're going to get more of those. We're going to get more of those because the comic book community has decided to stay in the business and avoid canceling titles, that they have got to have more gimmicks on top of them. I am not clean in this regard. Youngblood is going to have now, given retail covers on top of it, kissing 40 covers. So I am that which I discuss here on the show. And having utilized each and every one of these tricks before, there's nothing pure or clean about it. But we are not also, in mind, offering bundles and discounts to where you can buy them for 10 cents on the dollar, which was the case with some of these going back into the spring, which was dodgy, just straight up dodgy. Chasing a number above all else. Okay, that supersedes anything I've just talked about in regards to the gimmicking of the product or marrying the gimmick with something quality. The agendaizing of hitting a number at all costs with what we call now bundles is a different animal itself. I have written about what other retailers have written about those in March and episodes of this show going back to March and April of 2025. So check those out. Batman regained its form. Last 5 years, number one selling comic book character. He is the number one brand. Batman is the number one brand in comic book and comic book pop culture. But as important as all of those creatives are in manufacturing those level of sales, as I said, the insignificance of the publishers in the overall grand scheme, DC Comics Publishing could post its most profitable year, and it's not enough to pay for all the bungalows on the Warner Brothers lot, for all of the employees, all of the buildings, the power, the electricity, the sound stages. It's just not going to happen. You need those other elements. That's not to say that they're not significant. If you have a publishing company and it's making a profit, kudos, bravo. Why I'm bringing up these other aspects is why the publishing of Batman does not dictate all of the Batman. Okay? All of the Batman is dictated by the higher platforms of Batman, the films. You knew this is where this was going to land because you're using your logic brain. We're just coming at this from the most absolute practical application that we can put on this. We saw once Christopher Nolan entered the Batman chat, he took it over. His movies, which made $1 billion, the last two both made $1 billion. Batman Begins was like the taster. I believe Batman Begins and the Robert Pattinson, Matt Reeves Batman are very much in the same wavelength, in that the second at bat is going to be even more explosive. They put the taster out there. This is a new direction. This is a new world. This is a new Batman. And people really enjoyed it. Maybe it wasn't the Nolan numbers towards the end, but I believe Matt Reeves' second Batman that is getting ramped up, that there's always constant chatter in the trades, in all the entertainment newsletters that I subscribe to, and all the podcasts. Matt Reeves' second at bat with Batman is the most important thing to do with Batman on the ledger right now. It's so important that they have to acknowledge it with the same importance that James Gunn is acknowledging the DC universe of movies that he's building out, while acknowledging that this is a standalone, or as they said this last weekend, it's an Elseworld. It's an Elseworld. It's not the likelihood that Robert Pattinson is going to meet David Cornswat's Superman is not going to happen. Okay, that Batman and that Superman are not destined to team up. They're not destined to meet. But Matt Reeves and now Robert Pattinson, because the face of Batman becomes very, very important, just as Christian Bale did, just as they had hoped Ben Affleck would. So there's nothing more important that is being done with Batman than what Matt Reeves is going to do with Batman in the next few years. And the marketing of that Batman, of Robert Pattinson's Batman, of whoever they surround him with, whatever players whatever glow up characters that have not been on film before, because we're getting promised. And there's a lot of chatter. Is it Hush? Is it Court of Owls? What is it? Is it Crocodile? Is it, what's his name? Is it Crocodile Croc? Whatever. Killer Croc. Thank you. Sorry. Didn't bring my show notes today. Killer Croc, whatever it is. They've promised to have some fresh looks at these. Why are you talking so much about Batman, Rob? I've established he's the most popular comic book character. He's the biggest pop culture comic book character expanding across the globe. He is the number one priority in the film division, and that film is the number one Batman priority, anything, anywhere. So we are looking at a company that all arrows, all priorities point to Batman. And when you have Absolute Batman, the Hush Batman, and the brand new Blind Bag Batman, using this to differentiate them all. When you've got all that in the comic book world, they're drafting off this natural, incredible interest in the Batman property that has been going on since 1986 when Frank, threw the switch, activated Batman again, made him a cultural touchstone, which brought in Tim Burton and Michael Keaton in all those movies and just kept the ball rolling. So much so that on the publishing end, and that there are more Batman comics that I'm talking about that I'm bringing. I'm not mentioning Detective. I'm not mentioning all these other. I know there's many. I saw a couple of years ago there was a Gotham Knights. Batman and his entire supporting cast as depicted in the medieval times. There's a lot of fruit to grab off that tree. It's a big tree. And sometimes it's going to overshadow Green Arrow, Flash, and Aquaman and make it harder for them to grab your interest because so much of everything that DC is putting out. So if Absolute Batman, Hush, and Blind Bag Batman garnered significant marketing across, let's say, 3 months each for each of them, that's 9 months that they were tooting the loudest horn. Now, let's say Batman was number one in those 3 instances, the Hush, the Absolute, and the Blind Bag. Well, then put Batman, Deadpool, and Deadpool Batman in there, and that's 5 times a Batman related project will have hit number 1 across 12 months. So do not for 1 minute doubt how important Batman is across the entire platform of comic books and pop culture. I imagine if I were to look at Todd McFarlane, this period that he had the license that is now soon about to go, I believe it rolls over to Mattel in 2026, but I believe there's probably, if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. I believe Batman has been probably, and the Batman family have been his most produced subject matter in regards to action figures. I believe there's more Batman stuff in those toys than anything else. Again, if I'm wrong, prove me wrong. I would rather be educated than be right. You decide. You're picking up the Batmans and not buying the Aquamans and not buying the Green Arrows and buying very few copies of the Flash. You're the decider. Your tastes change, they evolve. Some of you exit out, some of you come in. There's definitely been a brand new audience in the comic book publishing world. I believe that Absolute Batman, I've said it for the last year, solid, brought in a bunch of new readers. It is the most successful reflection of what's going on in manga right now. When Nick Dragotta and Scott Snyder get together and they plan their arcs out, their years, maybe multiple years, as they've said. I believe they are doing so with this very, let's grab some of the manga kids and pull them over. And they've done it. It's successful. The combination of what they're doing and the guest artists that have jumped along the way, the recent issue by Clayman was mind-blowingly fantastic, just stunning. Keeping the ball rolling, keeping the style and storytelling of what they're presenting in Absolute Batman alive. That particular book, I believe by design, is going after a manga crowd that is coming in. I've had retailers show me. They point them at, there they are. New faces, fresh, younger. They've heard the chatter. They're grabbing it. The excitement around that is the best possible excitement because it is homegrown. It is word of mouth. It is as sincere and organic as you could make a support for a book. But with all the Batman stuff, and Batman, including Batman Deadpool, hitting the top spots 5 months out of 12 is significant. It changes tastes. It guides interest. And it is hard to do those lesser, they're not even lesser known in a character that had 8 seasons, 170 episodes, billion-dollar franchises. It's hard to call them lesser. They were part of the original Super Friends that I was watching in the 1970s. So these characters have sustainability. But you have decided that your favorite product from DC Comics and maybe your favorite product in the entire comic book industries are these Batman-themed comic books. So everything else is going to have to run to catch up. When you are owning the property, when you publish it, and the numbers come in and maybe they're a little dodgy and not what you anticipated, you can cool it off. You don't have to cancel it. You can write your own rules, as we did. If I wanted to do an all splash page issue, I did. If Eric Larson wanted to do an all 12 panel grid page, he did. I'm not sure if that's the extent of what he did, but he's done stuff like that before. If you want to take a pregnant pause on something like Saga, where they have taken multiple just complete pauses, they do that. Then they come back maybe a year, maybe 9 months, maybe longer after whichever. I haven't kept track of all the different pauses on Saga, but Saga, which was an incredibly successful, what I would call a Quentin Tarantino-esque version of a Star Wars type universe. It took everybody by storm, made everybody laugh, gave us shocks. It was incredibly well illustrated, and the storytelling was fantastic. That book was all the buzz. They did a couple years worth of incredible, impactful issues. They garnered the notice of the entire industry, and then they went on a break. And when they wanted to rejoin it, they did. And when they wanted to break again, they took some more time off, and then they came back. They rejuvenated their batteries. They recharged. When you're in charge, you're the guy. You're the woman. You're the person who can cancel your comic, not the numbers cruncher who may have as justifiable reasons as possible. And maybe looking at, we could spend the same amount of money on another book, conceivably, maybe a Robin book, maybe a Nightwing book, maybe a Batgirl book. Okay, there are, the companies definitely want to make money, definitely need to show on the ledger to their corporate parents that they are, even if they are not on the same par as the video game department, the licensing department, the film, the television department. You want to show that you're doing well. I think DC has had an incredible turnaround. There were retailers on this show years ago saying, I can't give my DC comics away. These books are not even being picked up. They're being passed by. Now that is happening to a rival. That is happening to another company. And we're going to see how that works out. We should have some serious data on that in the next month. You are the decider. You decided that you loved Transformers by Skybound, that you loved Daniel Warren Johnson, that you're so excited about Robert Kirkman and Dan Mora. You decided that you wanted Battle Beast as the premium Invincible spinoff, okay? You've decided to not pick up some of the books that Marvel's been publishing because you've heard here in this portal through this window, retailers say, my top-selling X-Men comic, I didn't expect what was going to come out of his mouth. My top-selling X-Men comic, I sell 30 copies of. That shocked me. That's his best-selling X-Men book. That is completely at odds with everything that I've ever known in this comic book business, but it is an example of how you have decided that other stuff is more priority to you. There's other stuff that's more interesting to you. I need you to decide that you dig what I'm doing on Youngblood. And I'm already prepared with a couple different curveballs along the way. But I don't ever lose sight of the fact that you are the audience I'm creating for. I am putting my commercial instincts out there, betting that what I like, you will like, and that the twists that I bring, you will find twist-worthy and exciting. We are just living in a different time. Over at DC Comics, it shouldn't surprise you that Arrow, Aquaman, and Flash are struggling because the narratives have shifted. And much like what happened with the Ultimate Universe, the Absolute Universe is now the belle of the ball. Aside from these other adjacent Batman projects, the Blind Bag, the Hush stuff, Absolute has got the sexy bells and whistles. That's the stuff that people are really clamoring for at this time. And, the market will adjust. DC, the publisher, will adjust. They may expand the absolutes. What happened to Ultimates early in the 2000s is they went as far in as the Ultimates, continuing to put out new Ultimate projects till people push back. Or the talent wasn't there to make those books as good as they were when they launched, because when they launched, they had top-tier, top-flight talent. Brian Hitch and Mark Millar easily became the most buzziest, the new standard. It was the book that everyone was anticipating every five to 6 weeks. It was the one they wanted more than any other comic. Until it wasn't. Because you decide. When you get bored, you put things off. I believe it was 2004 and fall 2004 when ABC, who had previously been a really big, very important, very resonant network when I was a kid with Bionic Woman, Charlie's Angels, $6 Million Man, Love Boat, Three's Company, Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, they had cooled off. And NBC had jumped and CBS had jumped, and these other networks had become more popular. And I've mentioned this before, and I'll wrap this up really quickly. But in 2004, Lost, Desperate Housewives, and within a few months, Grey's Anatomy came out. 3 new blockbuster shows that changed the fortunes of ABC. overnight, suddenly, brand new stuff. People changed their viewing habits. They abandoned other time slots that they were watching to make sure that, Lost was on their radar, that Desperate Housewives was on their radar, and that Grey's Anatomy. Three powerhouse shows that completely turned around all the fortunes for the network. And it was something that they had been looking to duplicate. And if you go deeper into the weeds, you'll understand that the guy that was running ABC at the time was looking at the success that CBS was having with their Survivor series, with people who got progressively better looking because everyone lost tons of weight and got more shredded as long as they were on the island. My friend I had a friend who literally said to me, Rob, I'm guilty. I love looking at these people in their starving physiques, okay? And they're super tan and they're sweaty. And like I said, some guys already went over ripped and got even more ripped. And the women, men and women in their bathing suits competing in tropical narratives, in a tropical narrative played out in a tropical locale. ABC wanted to capitalize on this. They said, let's put people in a jungle. How do we do that? I want to capitalize on this. And Lost was the ultimate fruit of that endeavor to get in on some of that kind of survivor visual representation. So again, everyone is always looking at someone else and looking to capitalize on what they're doing. We are once again in the full throes. I haven't remembered a year like this in the last decade that was so Batman-centric. And with Matt Reeves' Batman about to film, it's going to become even more so, because think about all of the advertising and all of the tie-ins that you're going to start seeing, and the excitement and the set photos, and who's going to be joining Robert Pattinson. I would just expect big things, but there is no more important voice on the Batman property, no more important voice at this point during that shoot than Matt Reeves. And there is no more important representation of Batman than Robert Pattinson. So we're living in fun times. You decide. You could have chosen not to buy those tickets, not to support that version of Batman, but you did. And it excited Warner Brothers so much that they went all in, and they are going all in on this sequel. They waited the appropriate amount of time until everything was right. The script was in the best place possible, and boom, we're off to the races. In the meantime, when you have a book that you own yourself, as I said, you have different avenues. You have live streaming. You have doubling down on the convention circuit. You have crowdfunding. You have all manner of aspects that you can apply to make sure that your books are profitable, even if they're not getting the numbers that maybe you would want. You can do special editions. You can do the chromium. You can do the holofoil. You can do the glow in the dark, the acetate, all the different platforms of kind of enhancements at the printers in order to create special editions that are going to give you back the funds so that, we discussed this an hour ago, you can get back to having fun. Because making comic books should be fun. And if the comic book can make enough to pay your bills and get you to the other side, and it's a life that you dictate your own terms, you draw, you write from your home office, you kind of live your life on your own terms, you go to conventions, you make prints, you make custom versions of your comics. You don't have to be restrained by the same sales commitments. And again, when they say these sales were unsustainable for a corporation, for you can determine unsustainability differently. DC's in a different place. If you told me that all their books were going to be Batman in the next year, I would believe you. The thing I loved about the Marvel 70s is they threw it all against the wall. They had fantasy, they had sword and sorcery, they had horror books, they had superhero books, they had sci-fi books. Skull the Slayer, Omega the Unknown, Conan the Barbarian, Cull. You had Nova, brand new young superheroes. You had movie adaptations, Star Wars, which they then got into Star Trek and Battlestar Galactica. And yes, there was a period that Marvel was publishing all of them. They were publishing all of those franchises. It was a great time. They threw everything in the wall. I loved variety. Variety is a spice of life. Variety is the reason that I'm into the independent comic market. The independent comic market gives me the widest variety I can do. Entertain myself with a Western zombie styled comic in Walking Dead. I can do a superhero like Invincible, and then in Skybound alone, I can go and I can get Skin Breakers, which is like a sci-fi fantasy. That's what Marvel was in the 70s. DC did a little of the same. Certainly in the 80s, whether it was Camelot 3000, whether it was the Titans, whether it was the Legion, whether it was the Outsiders, whether it was Justice League, Blue Devil, Blue Beetle, They did all manner of, when I remember being very excited by the ads for Booster Gold by Dan Jurgens, an artist who I had really grown to have a tremendous favor for. So I was like, I'm buying this immediately. Sight unseen, just the announcement of Booster Gold written and drawn by Dan Jurgens, who I had been enjoying on Warlord. Boom. Dan also did a miniseries called Sun Devils. There was all manner of different ideas, sci-fi concepts, fantasy concepts. I mean, like Amethyst, also, a licensed property, but fantasy nonetheless. We are getting more and more focused in that you can only do what sells books. And part of the discussion today was how very well-known Flash, Aquaman, Arrow are struggling in this marketplace. I'm not sure that an absolute moniker on them would save them. I know that it would most definitely help. But when you are the boss, you can make those decisions. And again, even furthermore, doubling down on this entire notion that you decide. If you are the creator, you decide. If you are the comic buyer, you decide. If you are the store, you decide what you carry. I sure do love talking comics with you guys. We're going to put in a pin in it. Until then, you and your tastes change. And we as creators and publishers look to change with you so that we ourselves stay relevant and stay in the game and stay part of your audience, that we can continue to count on you as an audience. Thank you for joining me. Thanks for talking comics. Thanks for talking shop. Stuff like that cancellation notice, the low sales, it can just completely encapsulate all of my thinking. And then I look and I see what else is coming out. And by the way, I think the fall is ending strong. I believe Youngblood is part of that. I believe Youngblood is part of the strong end of the year, fall to Christmas offerings, along with the new direction on Transformers, along with Skin Breakers, along with the DC version of Batman Deadpool, along with everything else that I'm kind of blanking on that's coming out. Really excited to keep giving you comics, making them, getting them into your hands, promoting them. And I will be at the New York Comic Con and look forward to seeing you guys there. I'll be there all 4 days. I generally get there in the afternoons. I love the city. I have a lot of stuff planned, and so I always make the later in the day, mid to late afternoon, a priority to go over to the convention center, be at my table, and be able to meet you guys, greet you guys. You know what? I'm gonna tell you right now. Artist Alley is like its own comic book convention in and of itself. It really represents an incredible amount of traffic if you're going down there. Woo! I mean, be prepared. Be prepared to bump a lot of elbows. I will be at booth HB904. HB904. I'm always with Hot Flips. They're right there at kind of the beginning of Artist Alley, so you can hit me up early. I'll be there in the afternoons. Looking forward to signing books. We have our exclusives. Can't wait to see you. When I am not doing this podcast, talking to all of you, and I'm not doing New York Comic Con, I am all over social media. On X, I am at Robert Liefeld, ROBERTLIEFELD. Look forward to hanging with you and catching up with you on X. I think the reach and the extent of which we can connect on X is remains as exciting to me today as when it was when I first jumped on and made my handle. Being able to talk to all of you, read your mentions, your comments, your replies, your DMs is such a thrill. I love the dialogue. At Robert Liefeld, blue check, signifying I am the real deal. Look forward to seeing you over there. On Instagram, I am at Rob Liefeld. We're doing some fun stuff, doing a lot more interactive material, as long as our standard, showing you what's new in comics and the creative stuff that I'm a part of. At Rob Liefeld with a blue check mark. ROBLIEFELD. I will look for you over there. We've got a brand new social manager. I call Scotty the boss. He's done a really great job kind of cultivating this programming that we're sharing with you. He is also handling my TikTok account, Rob Liefeld on TikTok. Go over there, join Rob Liefeld on Instagram, Rob Liefeld on TikTok, and see all the different programming that we're doing and all the ways that we're sharing, reaching out, and trying to connect with you over these social platforms. Over on Facebook, we have a group, Marvel Extreme and Beyond. Rob Liefeld, sorry, it's called Rob Liefeld, Marvel Extreme and Beyond. I will look to see you over there. Very excited to connect with you. We have a great group. We keep it up. We keep it fun. We have great art that's shared, great discussions. Each and every episode of this show is given a dedicated post so you can weigh in, discuss, maybe help understand any given episode with other audience members better. So Rob Liefeld, Marvel Extreme and Beyond. It's a group. It's a group on Facebook. We would love to see you over there. Myself or a gentleman named Terry Sala, Sala, will click you on through. I am on live streams, whatnot. Going to be doing a lot of those between now and New York Comic Con with all the fresh stuff, maybe some surprises that we will be bringing you that I have not yet told you about. Our Deadpool Batman stock just blew up. We have, blew out. We have a few books that I held on to that I'm going to bring over to you on my most recent, the Whatnot streams that are going to be around or following the time of this episode. Whatnot. I am Rob Liefeld on Whatnot. If you follow me, you'll get alerted to when I'm going to go live. We have custom signatures. And I'll just tell you right now, we have stuff like this brand new Cable action figure. I'm holding up the brand new Cable Hasbro, the X-Men 97 figure. We're going to have a couple of those. I'll sign this. I'll do some special signatures, and we'll have this on the show. You guys talked, I talk about on the recent episodes that when you own your own catalog, you can make your own action figures. This Bloodstrike action figure sold out across the board worldwide, but I have three cases left between Blood Wolf right here and Bloodstrike right here. These two blew out. I sign them. I do custom signatures on these. Batman, Deadpool, I have sketch editions like this. This is a brand new, fresh. I've got some of these sketch editions. I did brand new, fresh depictions of Deadpool with Batman on each and every cover that we show up and offer you. And then here is what I call my blood splatter chisel right there, the Liefeld chisel. You get a signature on the top. This is a special edition of Youngblood that was offered in April of this past year, 2025. That is a blood splatter chisel. It was made by a mistake while I was doing a live stream. The pen exploded and dripped all over, and I'm like, what am I going to do here? And then I started, kind of flipping the ink a little left, a little right, a little top, a little bottom. Boom, suddenly blood splatter. It was born. All this kind of stuff, including original art and so much more, is a part of my live streams. My live streams are a little bit like the podcast expect. You're talking back at me the entire time, and it's a little frantic and it's a little crazy, and there's a lot of chaos, but we would love to enjoy you. Go to Whatnot, get that app, download it. We're in the comic book section. Follow Rob Liefeld, and you will be notified. What a crazy world. What a bunch of chaos. I hope I'm a bit of a distraction to you. Love to hear from you in the comments. As always, wherever you listen, Apple, those reviews, Spotify, YouTube, those comments, those reviews. I look to interact with all of you on those. At the very least, I try and put a thanks for listening. This show is meant to be a distraction. Embrace comic books, embrace pop culture, kind of look at the standards, look at the time, look at what's going on today. It was a little more topical, but also a reminder that you are the boss. And you are in charge of your ability to get up off the grindstone if life is grinding you down and the hamster wheel is getting getting too much. Step away. Do yourself a favor. Relax. The job will still be there. Okay. The responsibilities aren't going anywhere. But if you rejuvenate yourself, if you get that recharge, if you go out with your friends, have a coffee, go to the diner, go to a really nice restaurant with your family, your wife, your girlfriend. Have fellowship with your buddies. Get outside, play basketball, golf. I know so many of you golf. Have a long walk around the lake. Just get out, enjoy your family, enjoy your friends, share love, be loved, okay? Life can't be the grind, just wearing us thin. We all have burdens. We all have stuff we're dealing with, carrying with our families, our friends, our loved ones. And I'm just here to tell you, I feel it. I live it. I'm part of it. And I just extend to you my very best. I hope that your mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual well-being is exactly where you need it to be. Get that rest. Take that time for yourself. Enjoy that movie, that book, that comic, that streaming show. Just exhale, relax. We're going to be back in a couple weeks. I'm planning to take a couple shows off and then post Comic-Con come back with a roar. But until then, and until we see you, if there's something always I reserve, if there's an emergency capacity, I will jump back in the fray. But at this point, I'm going to see you on the other side of Comic-Con. So it's going to be a few weeks, an adieu and an adieu. We're busy. We're trying to lock everything down. Boom, boom, 2 fist bumps into this Blue Yeti microphone. Wishing you all the very best. Thank you for hanging with us as always. I will be back. Not going to be too long. I'll still be right there. under that shade, that tree. Pick me up. We will most certainly, we will most definitely, we will absolutely and inevitably, we're going to talk again real soon.